Froogle Sim videos are powered by Jetline Systems. Hello YouTube, this is Froogle, and this is somewhat unique. We're back in IL-2 Sturmovik, but I'm not speaking over the video that you're currently watching because I'm doing an interview. I have with me on Skype Jason Williams, who some of you may know is the executive producer of this very title. How you doing, Jason?
How you doing? Good to see you, Froogle.
Thank you, thank you. Now, Jason reached out to me after I did the original video. In fact, I reached out to them, then he reached out to me and said, you got stuff wrong. So we're going to do an interview and we're going to correct what I got wrong, but just generally have a chat about 1C Game Studios, about IL-2, its past, its present, its future, where it's going, and all that good stuff. So let's actually start there. Talk to me about the origin of 1C Game Studios and IL-2 Sturmovik as it currently is, because it's very different from what it was, right?
Correct, yeah. IL-2 Sturmovik, the original flight sim that everybody loves so much, started out almost 20 years ago in development by a guy named Oleg Maddox, who teamed up with 1C Company in the early 2000s, and they produced the first IL-2 Sturmovik title, and then it branched out into Forgotten Battles and additional expansions for the next 4 or 5 years, including Pacific Fighters and Aces expansion and a couple other titles that really expanded the plane set and the map set into quite a tour de force. And by the time 2005 rolled around, there really wasn't anything else on the market that could touch it. And then they started working on a follow-up that was based on the Battle of Britain, and that was in development for several years. And apparently there were some development difficulties, and it never really got ready for market in a timely fashion. And when it was finally released, actually before that, Oleg Maddox stepped away from the project, and then the project was taken over by another producer, and the product eventually was released onto the market in 2010. And as you mentioned in your video, it was quite disappointing.
Yeah.
Didn't function very well. They continued to try to update it for another couple of years and get the bugs fixed. Still didn't live up to expectations. And about that time, we were talking to 1C about taking over the Sturmovik franchise and kind of relaunching it with using our team and our engine. And that's exactly what we did. So by time 2013 rolled around, my company, 777 Studios, which had already produced our World War I flight sim, which was quite good, called Rise of Flight, the first great air war. Mm-hmm. And we took our technology from that, and we took over development of the Sturmovik franchise, and we relaunched it using our technology. Interestingly enough, the what turned into Cliffs of Dover, that was released in 2010, fell by the wayside, and some modders, a modding team, took over, and they started to slowly but surely address some of the problems with Dover for the next several years.
Right.
And during that time, my company, 777 Studios, which by this point is now part of, or became part of, 1C Game Studios. So actually, Sturmovik is developed by 1C Game Studios, which is a collective of folks from 777 Studios, some folks from 1C with 1C management, and together we have formed 1C Game Studios, which has developed the Sturmovik franchise since very early 2013.
Okay.
So that's kind of the background of how we got here and how the different products evolved. There's of course even more to that story that we can get into if you want, but
sure.
But the way it works now is there's the original Sturmovik, let's call it a legacy product that everybody remembers.
Yep.
It's been modded to death. It's been pirated. Everything's happened to the original Sturmovik, but it's a classic. It really is a classic. It'd probably be the most successful World War II combat flight sim ever made. And then I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to interject there and say absolutely. I mean, if you think about it, IL-2 Sturmovik, the original, came out during or towards the end of that great explosion of World War II combat scenes, we had European Air War and Combat Flight Simulator 2, and IL-2 Sturmovik suddenly appeared and knocked everybody out of the water. So yeah, very cool.
Yeah, I agree. And about that time is when the gaming market, the PC gaming market, started to evolve and change, and flight sims, especially combat flight sims, started to become not so profitable. There's a whole history there as well. But the late 90s, early 2000s were kind of the quote unquote golden age of combat flight sims. But Sturmovik was definitely part of that and one of the big winners coming out of that era. But these days, well, let's first back up. There's obviously original Sturmovik we talked about. That's the first generation of Sturmovik. Then there's the Cliffs of Dover product. There's the second generation. And then there's the third generation, which is our Sturmovik, Battle of Stalingrad, Battle of Moscow, Kuban, etc. And we label that entire series the Great Battles series.
Oh, okay.
So under the Great Battles banner, we'll have different products that all use the same client. By the way, I should mention our friends at Team Fusion. Team Fusion has taken over the development of the Cliffs of Dover product, and they were the mod team that really kind of pounded it into shape from its poor state several years ago. And just this past year, we worked out an arrangement with them where they have access to the source code. So they've been working on improving Cliffs of Dover, and they're working on a new expansion for Cliffs of Dover based on the North Africa campaign, which should be coming out in the not too distant future. Wow. So there's a lot of good stuff happening in Sturmovik universe, both with my team and with the Dover, with the Team Fusion team working on Dover. So the Sturmovik brand, as far as combat flight sims go, is far from dead, and it's being worked on by lots of people, and the future is still pretty bright. This is a tough genre to make a living, I'll be honest with you. Very demanding user base who wants very realistic things, and they want it to be accurate, they want it to perform well. So it's a challenge, but our Sturmovik, the Great Battle series, has really come a long way the last few years, and it's really, really a lot of fun.
Let's talk about the realism for a second, because that's actually quite an interesting point. In terms of, especially multiplayer right now, and I know IL-2 has a huge multiplayer following, much like Rise of Flight does as well. But in terms of multiplayer, you've got the really kind of, I don't know, casual experience like World of Warplanes and things like that on the one end. Right. On the other hand, you've got things like DCS World, which have study level, every switch works and does exactly what it does kind of platforms and sims over there. And I see you as very much in the middle, more towards DCS, and that you have these highly realistic flight models, but I call them reduced complexity cockpits. You're not flicking switches in the cockpit. Is that correct? Is that a good assessment?
Yeah, more or less. I mean, when it comes to physics and it comes to ballistics and damage modeling and the physical world, and graphics and things like that, our product and the DCS line are very, very similar. You can argue all day long and all week long about which product is better in certain ways, and that's what our fan base does, is they like to compare products. But when it comes to gameplay or accessibility, we've tried to make our product a little bit more accessible to people who don't have the time to study the startup sequence of every airplane. Doesn't mean we don't model the systems, because we do. Doesn't mean we don't model the animations of how you start up the plane or what have you. But we do give you some options to simplify how the plane operates, so you can focus on flying and fighting as opposed to playing with your fuel mixture or your prop pitch, or turning your magnetos on or things like that. Now, that's not to take anything away from DCS, because they do that kind of stuff, and you can also do that stuff in P3D or X-Plane. Sure. But we try to provide basically a realistic hardcore setting with realistic and hardcore combat, but make it a little bit more accessible. And that's exactly how the first Sturmovik, the classic version, that's the sweet spot that Sturmovik hit. Whenever you try to make a quote-unquote clickable cockpit and make a study sim, you're looking at a huge amount of detail and research and modeling that has to be done to support that one feature.
Right.
I'm not saying it's a bad feature to have. It's be great. I wish I had it. But you also have to take into consideration the costs involved. So we'd rather spend our resources on making more content or fixing bugs or working on some other aspect of the game than building a clickable cockpit at this point, because we think that we've hit that sweet spot where it's accessible, you can get into the action, you can fly it in a very realistic manner. We model all the systems, but when it comes to managing some of the systems, you don't have to click every single little button.
And that's one of the things I've pointed out, I think, in my video as well, about how accessible it was. I think it's the first video I've ever put up on Froogle Sim where I actually had helpers on for radiators and mixture and prop pitch and stuff like that, and was quite comfortable with that. And that's one of the things I found when I started to really get into the latest version of Sturmovik, is having all these accessibility things on is actually kind of cool. The first combat I had labels on, I didn't realize, showing me where the bad guys were, and it actually made life a lot easier and a lot more fun. So yeah.
Well, and if you want to know where the enemies are and blast them out of the sky, that makes it easier. If you love the challenge of finding the enemy to shoot them out of the sky, then you simply turn the labels off. I mean, there's everything you saw on your screen that you liked as far as accessibility, all of that can be eliminated and turned off. And you can fly the plane in a very realistic manner without any helpers. And that's what we like about our product, is it's flexible. You can get in there, you can find the enemy, you can shoot them down with some helpers. It will remind you to do certain things like raise your landing gear or put your flaps down if you want. Or you can have a little heads-up display on the screen to tell you how fast you're going, so you don't have to look at the cockpit gauges per se. Or you can turn all that off and just fly like a real pilot and have that challenge for you as well. And we also give our multiplayer server operators the option to turn those helpers on or off, so you can find the multiplayer environment that you're happiest with.
Right. So we covered a little bit of the past, and we covered a little bit of what it currently is now. Let's talk a little bit about the future now. You've got 3, I'm going to call them campaigns, but you're probably not. So correct me after this, but you've got Stalingrad, Moscow, Kuban, Bodenplatte, which I probably mispronounced. And Bodenplatte. And now you've got Flying Circus and the Tank Thing. What's going on? What's coming up next?
So all of our products use the same client, the same software install. And when you purchase a product from us or from Steam or however, you end up unlocking the content that already exists on your PC. What we've done is we try to build our products around a battle or some episode in World War II that you can identify with. So our first product was Battle of Stalingrad in this series, and we basically modeled the Battle of Stalingrad with a plane set that made sense, with a map that had Stalingrad, destroyed Stalingrad in it, and then we built all the features of that product around that core battle. Yeah. And then we moved to Battle of Moscow, and we did the same thing. Now, mind you, this whole time, we have a philosophy or a style of development that is basically continual development. And if we improve an aspect of our engine for one particular product, say Moscow, it's retroactively available for owners of Battle of Stalingrad, because we're just working off the same client. So we continually develop our engine, which we have really done a lot to since 2013, and it's really not the same engine at this point, and it's light years beyond our Rise of Flight engine, which was from 10 years ago. So we did Battle of Stalingrad, then we've done Battle of Moscow, then we decided to do Battle of Kuban near Crimea in the Caucasus region, which was a kind of an underserved but very interesting battle in World War II that pitted the Soviet Air Force against the Luftwaffe, and it kind of was a turning point in the air war, where the Soviets got better at fighting the Luftwaffe, and you started to see some Lend-Lease planes show up in the skies of the Soviet Union. So we did Battle of Kuban. Then we decided to, well, first we wanted to do a Pacific product, but that's quite an undertaking that we're not quite ready for yet.
Okay.
So we decided to turn our attention to the Western Front, and focus on the period of late 1944, early 1945, towards the end of the war, where you really had some high-powered piston airplane performance, and you had, of course, the introduction of the German jets. And Battle of Bodenplatte takes its name from the famous operation that the Germans launched on January 1st, 1945, where they tried to knock out Allied air power in the Low Countries. Right. So, and that was during, just after or during the Battle of the Bulge, as we call it, or the Battle of the Ardennes.
Yeah, I know the Bulge.
Yeah, Battle of the Bulge. So and it was also called the Battle of the Airfields, because you had German tactical airplanes battling and trying to destroy Allied tactical airfields and airplanes, and kind of this interesting air war that didn't really involve heavy bombers and the strategic, bombing campaign of World War II. And in that time frame, you had Mustangs and Thunderbolts and Tempests and P-38s, and on the German side, you had some of their most advanced aircraft ever created fighting. Granted, they had shortage of fuel and all kinds of other issues to worry about, but the technology involved is quite a bit more advanced than what you're dealing with on the Eastern Front, a few years prior. So that really interested us, and we wanted to try to take a little break from the Eastern Front and show the rest of the world that we could do some Western planes as well as late war German aircraft. And we're really looking forward to see how the ME-262 pans out, because we're building the technology to support jets right now and in higher Mach numbers in the flight models. So that would be really interesting. So,
and that's why if you look on the product page as well for Bodenplatte, you're seeing some more familiar aircraft. If you're a Western pilot, you're not seeing Lags and Yak, you're seeing Spitfire, and you're seeing Mustang and things like that, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, so it should appeal, have a little bit different audience than just the Eastern Front. So we're looking forward to that. Then Flying Circus is our what we call our spiritual successor to our original product, Rise of Flight. So we're taking, we're sitting on a mountain of content for Rise of Flight. The nice models that were researched and built for Rise of Flight, and flight models that were built for Rise of Flight, and a lot of other a map that was built. So we're looking at like all this content for Rise of Flight that we that is currently attached to an engine that we no longer support, which is now obsolete. Doesn't support VR. It has a DX9 graphics, things like that. It's also a 32-bit engine. So what we're trying to do is take all of the amazing content from Rise of Flight, update it, remaster it, improve it somehow, and then bring it into our Sturmovik engine and bring it under the umbrella of the Sturmovik brand. And we're calling it Flying Circus Volume 1. And that assumes there'll be a Volume 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it ends up being. And we want to recreate all of the magic that we had from Rise of Flight, but improve it and recreate it inside the Sturmovik world. That way, whether you fly World War I or World War II, you have one client that we can update, so everybody benefits. World War I, World War II flyers, maybe someday Pacific or Korean flyers, Korean War aircrafts can all benefit from us, improving one engine instead of trying to work on two separate engines or an old engine and a new engine at the same time. It just doesn't make any sense. So we've done that successfully with our first two aircraft, which we release now in early access. So you can fly the SPAD-13 and the Fokker DR-1 of Red Baron fame, the triplane, in our Flying Circus product, which of course is part of, again, the IL-2 Sturmovik universe.
That's awesome. And the tank thing, where does that fit in?
tank thing.
The tank thing.
Called,
I'm sorry, I'm denigrating it, right? Because I'm a flight sim guy, and this is a flight sim
Uh-huh.
platform. And what you do is flight sims, and suddenly go drive a tank. Why?
Well, okay. Our engine has always been built to do large environments.
Right.
The digital nature and now the digital warfare engine that we have can do large environments with pretty darn good detail down low.
Right.
And when you think about tank battles on the Eastern Front or even the Western Front, they were always, over relatively large land features, whether it's the Battle of Kursk on the steppes of the Soviet Union, or it's in the Ardennes forest, or somewhere out in Europe. Other tank games that are casual, whether it be War Thunder or World of Tanks, their maps are small. They're highly detailed.
Right. They want to get players head to head as soon as possible.
Right. So there's a reason for that. But we're always like, why can't we have a larger environment that can involve airplanes and have a kind of more of an epic feel to it than just a small little PvP tank battle. So we thought it would be cool to experiment with tanks a few years ago, and some of our guys built a couple tanks, kind of not fully formed, but kind of a 3/4 effort. We did the Panzer III and the T-34, and we put them on the map, and we gave them to all users for free, and they could do some tank battles with Sturmovik. And we got some positive feedback from our customers that they enjoyed it. We played it ourselves, and we enjoyed it. And then we thought, has anybody really built a hardcore tank sim in the last few years?
No, not really.
Has anybody really built the interiors of all of these amazing tanks from World War II? Now, there are some products out there that have attempted to do that. We're not the only ones who's ever tried it. But we have an installed user base that's of good size. We have an engine that can do it. We have multiplayer functionality. We have a career system that's really cool. We have custom paint jobs. We have a lot of stuff that maybe other tank products didn't have. So maybe there's a way for us to make a profitable, interesting product out of our engine, but build these hardcore tank models and see if people want to play it, see if people are interested. So we decided to invest some of our time and effort into preparing our engine for tanks. And we went out, because we don't have a big enough team to build all the tanks ourselves. So we went out and found a team that's located in St. Petersburg that has a long history of making really awesome 3D models and textures for some of your favorite combat games out there. And they agreed that this was a cool idea, and they've come on board with us, and we formed a development partnership, and they're building our tanks. So what you see so far is you have the Tiger 1 and you have the KV-1 on the Soviet side, and the cockpits are gorgeous, and the tanks are really detailed. The ballistics are realistic, and you can play in a tank with your friends in multiplayer, and you can all crew a tank together and really create that kind of teamwork environment that a real tank crew would need. But of course, you can play single player, and we're just, hopefully just getting started with tanks. This is kind of our first stab at it. There's other things we can improve. We're learning. We're getting feedback from our customers. So over time, and with the help of our development partner in St. Petersburg called Digital Forms, we hope that the tank crew product will evolve, improve, and we hope that we can do more of them in the future, whether we stay on the Eastern Front, or we go to the Western Front, or we go to North Africa, who knows? But we think there's a hole in the market. We know people love tanks. We know people are interested in tanks. But we think there's a hole in the market for a hardcore tank simulation that could be a combined arms situation with airplanes in the sky and tanks on the ground. So it is a bit of an experiment, but we believe in the idea. People are purchasing it, people are playing it, we're getting feedback. So we think Tank Crew in the long run could be just as fun and a part of the Sturmovik universe as our airplanes.
That's awesome. I'm sold. That sounds really, pretty cool. One question I got to ask though: do you have a deformable landscape in your digital warfare engine? Do you support deformable landscape? Because my immediate thought is, if I'm in a tank and my buddies are all flying bombers, they're going to try to blow the crap out of the ground and make it hard for me to move forward.
Well, deformable terrain is on my wish list for sure, but right now we don't support it.
Okay.
Again, we're learning about the technology that people want us to have and want to see. I also need to figure out, is building something like that possible with the current generation of our engine? What kind of resources would I need to support that? So in that sense, no, I don't have deformable terrain, but we are currently building a new map, and this map that covers part of the Prokhorovka sector of the Kursk battle. We invested into making more detailed buildings that you can destroy with tanks. So if you hit it with a shell, it might be destroyed in some different manner than our buildings currently are. So first, let's make a map that's geared for tank battles. Let's find some technology that makes the tank battles more interesting. Let's focus on the tanks themselves. And then as time goes on, we'll look and see, well, if we were to make a next generation of this engine, what technology would we need? What can we bring to the battle that would make things more interesting? So it's as with all of our products, it's going to be an evolution over time that gets us the cool features that people want. So I hear you on the deformable terrain. No, I thought it looked really cool. Very few engines, at least in the simulation world, have this at this point.
Right.
So I know it's not the easiest thing to do, but that would be a cool feature for sure. I agree.
I have seen a couple of proof of concept engines out there which have it, but yeah, they're not in any for sale products right now. All right, I got to ask you the Steam question. Because you guys put out an announcement a couple of weeks ago, which I copied onto my Facebook page, and then I followed it up in the video, and I think somewhere else as well, telling people you guys you would prefer people to buy your product from the website. Do you want to talk about that?
I certainly can, and I don't want to denigrate Steam in any way.
Of course.
They're a big part of our community. I like Steam. I use Steam for a lot of other products. The simple argument here is that Steam takes a big chunk of our profit. For and they're, God bless them. They bring a lot of numbers to the party as far as customers, but they do take a pretty big chunk of money. If they take 30, 40, 45% after taxes out of the cost of our game, that's a pretty good chunk. If you buy it directly from us and you use a credit card or PayPal, we might lose 4 or 5% in credit card fees or other charges. So it's definitely, from a money-making standpoint, we always prefer people buy direct from us.
Right.
But people like the convenience and the community of Steam, and we don't blame them. That's why we're there. So Valve has always been nice to us, or at least the last few years. It took a long time to get on Steam, but once we got there, everything's been cool. So really no problem with Steam. Again, it's just, hey, if you want to buy direct from us and make sure the majority of your dollars, or the large majority of your dollars or rubles or pounds go to us, then please come buy direct from us.
Right. So I think the message is Steam is a great discovery platform. And if you've just discovered IL-2 on Steam, that's fantastic. And if you really love it and you want to support these guys, then head over to the website and buy the expansions.
Right, exactly. But I should say that you can buy Sturmovik on Steam, at least the base, what we call the base game, which is the Stalingrad product. And on Steam, all of our additional content that is on Steam is considered a DLC for the base product.
Right.
On our website, each product is considered, the battles at least, are considered standalone products, but they all can be merged together, obviously, in one big install.
Oh, wow.
Same thing with Steam, except the Steam platform, for us to market the Sturmovik series, we have to have a base game, and then we have to have DLC products after that. Okay. So Stalingrad is the base game on Steam, and you can buy DLC to complement it. But we have given you the additional opportunity to buy product not only on Steam, but you can also buy it on our website. And you can link your Steam account with our database. So you can buy product at Steam and you can buy it on our website, and they're linked together. So when you go to play Sturmovik through your Steam install, all of that extra content you might have purchased direct from us is also available inside your install on Steam, so you can play everything that you purchased. Sometimes we have a sale on our website and not on Steam. Maybe you want to pick up a product on sale on our website. Go ahead, buy it from us, and then just make sure your Steam account is linked with your Sturmovik account on our website, and everything's fine. You can play everything you own.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah. Right.
All right. So my final question, talking to you here, it sounds like you guys have a roadmap for this and it's completely wrapped up, and it's pretty cool to hear actually the journey that you're taking. I was writing in copious notes here as you were talking, and you're talking about your engine progressing, and is Rise of Flight going to get it, is a note that I made. And then you addressed that. That's where Flying Circus comes in. So everything's all buttoned up. And then you start talking about, well, maybe we'll go into the Pacific. And then a word that you brought up to me that struck a chord with me, maybe we'll go into the Korean theater. And it seems to me at that point, you're kind of getting towards the DCS space in some ways. Now, I know where you're going to go. Hang on 1 second. I am not a big fan of flight sims competing. All my viewers know this. I won't say that X-Plane is better than Prepared. I won't say that DCS or Rise of Flight is better than the other one. I think our niche is small enough that if you're able, you should support them all. But we had a chat about this briefly before we started recording, didn't we? And I said, I don't think you two are competitors at all. And you disagreed with me. Do you want to talk about it?
Well, only in the sense that the flight sim community is only so big.
Right.
And then within that larger group of people, there are subgenres where some people like World War One, some people like World War Two, some people like Korea, some people like modern jets, some people like helicopters, some people like flying airliners or light aviation planes, general aviation aircraft. Some people just love collecting scenery packages. Some people love building their own planes for P3D or for X-Plane. There's a whole different groups within the larger community, and in that sense, we're all competing against each other for your attention and for dollars.
Right.
And what we've tried to do is stake out our little corner of the universe, and that is primarily World War One and World War Two. Our engine is certainly capable of supporting a Korean War scenario. Because the electronics and the jets involved it was basically World War II planes with a turbine engine, right? So very easy to do as far as the technology standpoint goes. DCS has staked out the modern jet era and combat helicopters, and they've gone and worked into the World War II aspect. So where there is overlap, especially in World War II, we're going to be competitors to some degree.
Right.
And it annoys me just as much as it does you that people see us as competitors, because as far as I'm concerned, there's no right answer to what a flight sim should be, and just play whatever it is you enjoy. There's no reason to get into heated arguments and complain about our product has something that the other one doesn't have, or vice versa. It's really debilitating to the community, and it causes a lot of hatred and anger and heartburn that really shouldn't be there. But in that sense, we compete where there's overlap, and we don't really have any interest to go into modern jets, and I really don't. DCS seems to want to go into World War II. God bless them. They'll make some cool stuff. They already have made some cool stuff. And we can see what they're doing, and they can see what we're doing, and competition will always bring out the best in each company. But no, we're going to stick to World War I, World War II, and if the opportunity makes sense, maybe we'll go to Korea at some point and do sabers and MiGs and shooting stars and all that kind of fun stuff. But then there's also other challenges whenever you go to a new theater. What's the map going to look like? Are we going to have aircraft carriers? There's all kinds of considerations. So it's not always so easy. But no, we like propellers. And we like early jets. Let's put it that way.
Early jets. All right. One final thing around that DCS thing. A model that I actually like with DCS World is that it's free, and then you buy all the add-ons and the campaigns and all that kind of stuff for it. Is that something you have ever considered? Is that something you can even comment on?
Well, I'll comment in the sense that we did that with Rise of Flight.
Oh, you did? You did? Yes, you did. I remember. Yes.
We did that with Rise of Flight, and it was an interesting experience. We were also very desperate back in those days to get any customer we could find. And what we found with the demo was a mixed bag. We felt that it benefited us in some ways and it hurt us in other ways. So what we've done with Sturmovik is we've, of course, considered a free demo of some kind, maybe not the same type of demo that we did before with Rise of Flight. But we decided to hold off on the demo because, we're getting to the point where we offer a lot of content. And we can offer some really good deals on some of that content. And we didn't feel that offering a demo at this time would help us that much.
Okay.
We'd rather spend the time working on the issues that our paying customers have already asked us for than spending some time developing a demo. And I know people are going to hear this and go, shut up, Jason, making a demo is not hard.
Right.
Actually, yeah, it's going to take a couple months of our time to do a demo and set up our servers and our master server and everything to support that. We also got negative feedback from the multiplayer community that a free demo brings in people who don't want to pay anything. That bunch of looky-loos will come in and jump in your airplane and shoot off the tail from the rear gunner position and ruin the server. So we've gotten, like I said, we've gotten a lot of comments, both pro and con for.
I hadn't thought of that one.
Yeah. So we've learned a bit from a Rise of Flight free demo experience, and right now we think we're doing okay with the current situation where we have paying customers who really want to play our product, who are willing to spend a couple bucks to get in the cockpit and experience all that we have to offer. It doesn't mean I'm ruling it out forever, but we evaluate as we go.
Wonderful.
And right now our plate is full. We've got 3 active products in development, so a demo is not currently part of that mix.
No, that makes perfect sense. All right, Jason, I'm just about out of all the questions that I had. Did you have any final thoughts you wanted to share with the audience?
Well, I just want to say that your audience there on your YouTube channel, I know you do a lot of civilian sim coverage. I know you've done combat sims too, and the videos are always really entertaining. And I think you have the right attitude that when you get into these simulation products, it's great to take them seriously, but at the same time, they're entertainment software. When you crash and screw up, it's a lot of fun.
Sure.
But certainly, if you want to make it a lifestyle where you really want to focus on becoming a hardcore virtual pilot, that's all there for you.
Yeah.
Sturmovik offers, we think, something for everybody, but when we say that, we've kind of we've created a universe or a collection of features that I don't think a lot of other sims have, to be honest with you. Like, you can do your casual MMO dogfight like War Thunder or whatever. You can do your study sim like DCS and A10 and things like that. But do you have one product where you can go and you can decide, I want to play quick mission, or I want to do a scripted campaign tonight, or I want to fly in a multiplayer environment, or do I want to play on a multiplayer server that's part of an online war like we have with Tactical Air War server that's produced by some folks in the community that's really great? Do I want to play Pat Wilson's campaign generator, which is which our friend Pat Wilson, who lives in the United States, is a programmer by trade, and he made this really awesome third-party campaign system that rivals what we do. That he's been working on as a labor of love for years at this point. Do I want to play Pat Wilson's campaign generator tonight? Do I want to play our pilot career, which allows you to be a pilot as part of a World War II squadron on the Eastern Front, and then progress through a series of chapters in the battle and earn medals and promotions and kind of be basically do some role playing as a pilot in the war. And experience kind of like what life was like inside of a squadron as best we can with in a computer game. We offer kind of something for everybody, but it's all in this little universe that we've created that's packed full of features, and we're constantly improving them. We're constantly working on them. Like just our career, for instance. I just talked to the gentleman who Victor, who programs or builds the career system, and basically we've got in the works over 40 different mission types, from patrols to intercepts to ground attack to recon. Like all these kinds of interesting mission types are going to be in our career when it's all said and done. And we already have like dozens of squadrons you can fly for. We've created custom artwork for each squadron, and it's really a cool system. And I don't see that. And again, I don't play every other competitor's products much, but I really don't see anybody else putting the effort in that we do to try to create this universe of World War II or World War I action that you can play every night or every day if you wish. And I really think that's our strong point, is that we've diversified the feature set so much that really, if you're a casual player, play the quick mission for a half hour. If you're a hardcore player, play the career for a couple hours. Or if you're a mission builder and you want to make a scripted campaign for your friends, you can do that with our mission editor. Or if you're a hardcore multiplayer guy, you can set up a dedicated server with our software, and you can host a dogfight server or some kind of online war with our system. Or we've now added the multiplayer interface back into our GUI, so you can launch co-ops or dogfight missions with your friends using our interface. So it's really turned into a full-featured, engine, and I think that we're ahead of competitors, ahead of other products in the genre when it comes to those kinds of I guess you could say elements that users want.
Awesome. All right, Jason, thank you so much for giving me a copious amount of your time and talking through everything you're doing. It does sound pretty awesome. That's all I got for you, really. Thank you very, very much. You guys watching this, you've been watching me just play this very badly while talking to Jason. But anyway, if you head on over to il2sturmovik.com, it is linked in the show notes below. You can see everything that they're currently doing. And I think there's a blog up there and news about what's coming up in the future, and their forums. They have some pretty active forums as well. Once again, Jason, thank you so much.
Thank you, Froogle. I enjoyed it.
And as always, my name's Froogle, and I'll see you all very soon.